November 28, 1943, Tehran Conference, Persia. Winston Churchill leaned across the table toward Joseph Stalin and Franklin D. Roosevelt. The three most powerful men in the Allied world faced a problem that no amount of military force could solve alone. In wartime, Churchill said, truth is so precious that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies. Stalin smiled. Roosevelt nodded. Neither man realized Churchill had just named the most elaborate deception operation in military history. Operation Bodyguard would convince Adolf Hitler's military command that the Allied invasion of Europe would strike anywhere except where it actually would. It would create phantom armies commanded by America's most feared general. It would turn every German spy in Britain into an unwitting double agent feeding lies to Berlin. It would deploy inflatable tanks, wooden aircraft, and fake radio transmissions across an entire nation. And on June 9, 1944, 3 days after D-Day, it would compel Hitler to keep his most powerful reserves 150 miles from Normandy, waiting for an invasion that would never come. The greatest deception of World War II didn't just help win D-Day. It potentially shortened the war itself. December 6, 1943. London, England. Colonel John Bevan sat in a nondescript government building reviewing the final draft of a plan that had occupied his London controlling section since July. The challenge appeared insurmountable. Allied forces planned to invade Nazi-occupied Europe in June 1944. Everyone knew an invasion was coming. The Germans knew. The Russians knew. Even neutral nations knew. The question wasn't whether the Allies would invade. The question was where and when. And the Germans held every advantage of geography, preparation, and defensive positioning. Adolf Hitler's Atlantic Wall stretched 2,600 kilometers from Norway's Arctic Circle to Spain's northern border. Concrete fortifications bristled with artillery. Machine gun nests commanded every beach. Millions of mines infested the coastline. The Wehrmacht had spent 4 years preparing for this invasion. The mathematical reality terrified Allied planners. German forces in France, approximately 60 divisions. Allied invasion force, 37 divisions in the initial assault. The Germans outnumbered the attackers by nearly 2 to 1 on their own fortified territory. Traditional military doctrine suggested attackers need 3 to 1 superiority for successful assault against prepared defenses. The Allies would land with 1 to 2 disadvantage. The only solution, deception on an unprecedented scale. Make the Germans believe the invasion would strike elsewhere, force them to spread forces across thousands of kilometers, prevent concentration of reserves at the actual landing point, buy enough time after landing for reinforcements to arrive before German counterattack destroyed the beachhead. The London controlling section had one primary mission: strategic deception. Bevan's team consisted of intelligence officers, former advertising executives, stage magicians, novelists, and academics. Their qualification, the ability to think like the enemy while convincing the enemy they thought like allies. The draft plan bore the codename Jael, biblical reference to a woman who drove a tent peg through an enemy general's skull. Appropriate symbolism for driving falsehood through Hitler's strategic calculations. But Churchill's Tehran comment changed everything. Bodyguard became the operation's new designation. The name perfectly captured the concept: truth protected by lies, reality concealed by fiction, invasion shielded by deception. Bodyguard's objectives were specific and measurable. First, convince Germans the invasion would target Pas-de-Calais, not Normandy. Second, mask the actual date and time of assault. Third, keep German reinforcements away from Normandy for at least 14 days after landing. 14 days minimum. That was the calculation. If Allied forces could establish and expand their beachhead for 2 weeks Without facing Germany's full mobile reserves, victory became possible. But how do you deceive an entire military command structure? How do you make them believe fiction when reality will soon prove otherwise? How do you maintain deception even after truth reveals itself? The answer required understanding German intelligence capabilities and exploiting every weakness. The Abwehr, German military intelligence, and the Sicherheitsdienst, Nazi party intelligence, both operated spy networks throughout occupied Europe. They sent agents to Britain. They recruited sources. They intercepted communications. They analyzed troop movements. They photographed military installations. The British counterintelligence response became legendary. MI5's double-cross system, run by the 20 Committee, had achieved something remarkable by 1943. They had captured, turned, or controlled every single German agent in Britain. Every single one. Post-war German records confirmed this astonishing reality. The Abwehr believed it operated an extensive spy network, providing vital intelligence about British military preparations. In reality, every agent worked for British intelligence. Every report contained carefully crafted deception. Every communication fed German strategic calculations toward precisely wrong conclusions. The 20 Committee, named for the Roman numeral XX, symbolizing double cross, coordinated this unprecedented intelligence triumph. Chairman, John Cecil Masterman, Oxford historian and international cricket player. Operations Chief, Thomas Argyle Robertson, known as Tar, a Scottish charmer who wore his regimental tartan trousers to intelligence meetings. Lead interrogator, Lieutenant Colonel Robin Tin-Eye Stevens, who wore a monocle and could disassemble a person's life story with surgical precision. Their method was systematic and ruthless. German agents arrived in Britain by parachute, submarine, or false passport. Most were poorly trained Eastern Europeans. Some were genuine Nazi believers. Others were opportunists seeking escape from German-occupied territory. MI5 intercepted them within days or hours of arrival. Breaking the Enigma code helped immensely. British intelligence often knew agents were coming before they landed. Once captured, agents faced a choice: execution or cooperation. Most chose cooperation. Those selected for double agent work underwent exhaustive vetting. Stevens interrogated them at Camp 020, Latchmere House in Richmond. His sessions could last days. He picked apart every detail of their background, training, and mission. He identified inconsistencies. He discovered leverage points. He determined which agents could convincingly maintain deception under pressure. Acceptable candidates were assigned case officers and integrated into the double-cross system. Their German handlers received communications maintaining the fiction of loyal service. The content, a mixture of genuine information with no military value, delayed intelligence that arrived too late to matter, and carefully constructed lies designed to support strategic deception. By January 1944, the 20 Committee controlled a network of double agents positioned to execute Bodyguard's deception. The star performer, Juan Pujol Garcia, codename Garbo. February 1941, Lisbon, Portugal. Juan Pujol Garcia sat in a cheap hotel room surrounded by guidebooks, maps, railway timetables, and newspaper clippings. He had never been to Britain. He didn't speak English. He knew nothing about espionage. But he was about to convince the Abwehr that he was their most valuable agent in Britain. Pujol's background suggested nothing resembling spy material. Born 1912 in Barcelona. Graduate of the Royal Poultry School of Spain, the nation's most prestigious chicken farming institution. His Barcelona poultry farm failed. His brief cavalry service ended in mutual disappointment. During the Spanish Civil War, He served both sides without firing a shot, a feat he considered his greatest achievement. But Pujol possessed one extraordinary talent. He could lie with absolute conviction. And he despised totalitarianism with passionate intensity. When Britain went to war with Germany, Pujol decided to help. He approached the British embassy in Madrid, offering his services as a spy. They rejected him. No connections, no experience, no credentials. Undeterred, Pujol formulated an audacious plan. If Britain wouldn't recruit him, Germany would. Then Britain would have to pay attention. He approached German intelligence in Madrid, claiming to be a Spanish official with access to Britain. They were skeptical but interested. They gave him money, a questionnaire about British military preparations, and instructions to establish contact once in London. Pujol never went to London. He went to Lisbon and began fabricating intelligence reports using library materials, tourist guides, and creative imagination. His first reports contained embarrassing mistakes. He described Glaswegian dock workers willing to do anything for a litre of wine. Scots prefer whiskey. He invented troop movements that never occurred. He created military units that didn't exist. But Pujol understood a fundamental principle of deception. Volume creates credibility. He sent lengthy, detailed reports filled with minutiae. He complained about difficulties obtaining information. He requested more money for expenses. He behaved exactly like a real agent would behave. And crucially, he occasionally provided genuine information gleaned from newspapers, information the Germans could verify through other sources. He built trust through truth, mixed with carefully calibrated lies. By 1942, the Abwehr considered him a valuable asset. British intelligence noticed when Germans devoted considerable resources hunting a fictitious convoy Pujol had reported. They investigated this mysterious Spanish agent sending reports from Britain despite never entering the country. MI5's Desmond Bristow conducted initial interviews. What he discovered astonished him. Pujol wasn't just willing to work for Britain. He'd been trying to work for Britain all along. His elaborate German deception was his résumé. April 1942. Pujol arrived in Britain with his wife and was given codename Garbo, after actress Greta Garbo, for his extraordinary acting ability. His case officer, Tomas Harris, a Spanish-speaking MI5 agent and accomplished art dealer. Together, Harris and Pujol created something unprecedented, a completely fictional spy network that German intelligence would fund, trust, and rely upon for critical strategic intelligence. Pujol invented 27 sub-agents. Each had detailed backgrounds, personalities, employment, and access to different intelligence sources. There was the worker in a munitions factory, the railway employee who tracked troop movements, the Venezuelan living in Glasgow, the secretary with government connections, the RAF serviceman stationed at an airfield. None existed, all required salaries, which the Germans dutifully provided. Some agents even died, with Pujol planting obituaries in British newspapers. The Germans sent condolences and payments to fictitious widows. The sheer complexity of maintaining 27 fictional identities while coordinating reports from all of them should have been impossible. But Harris and Pujol wrote 315 letters, averaging 2,000 words each. They later switched to radio communications, transmitting more than 500 messages between January and June 1944. The information followed strict protocols. Nothing genuinely secret without 20 committee approval. Genuine intelligence artificially delayed so it arrived too late to be actionable. False information carefully constructed to support strategic deception without being obviously false. The Germans were so overwhelmed with intelligence from Garbo's network that they made no further attempts to recruit additional agents in Britain. They believed they already had comprehensive coverage. By December 1943, when bodyguard planning crystallized, Garbo was perfectly positioned to execute the most important deception of the war. January 1944. Kent, southeastern England. Lieutenant General George S. Patton arrived to assume command of the 1st United States Army Group. FUSAG didn't exist. Patton knew it didn't exist. German intelligence absolutely believed it existed. Operation Fortitude South, Bodyguard's critical component, centered on creating a massive phantom army group positioned in southeastern England, opposite Pas-de-Calais. The logic was elegant. Germany's military command would deduce invasion forces would stage near their embarkation points. Troops appearing in southeastern England indicated Pas-de-Calais as the target. Pas-de-Calais was the obvious choice, narrowest English Channel crossing, shortest distance to France, closest to Germany's industrial heartland. Hitler himself believed Pas-de-Calais was the logical invasion point. Creating evidence confirming his belief would prevent him from reinforcing Normandy even after landings began. Fortitude South's execution required multiple deception layers working simultaneously. Physical deception, inflatable tanks, wooden aircraft, fake landing craft. Radio deception, transmissions simulating army group communications. Double agent reports, Garbo and other controlled agents providing detailed intelligence about FUSAG preparations. Public appearances, Patton visiting southeastern England. Patton was the perfect choice to command this phantom army. German intelligence considered him America's best general, aggressive, unpredictable, brilliant. They feared him more than any other Allied commander. If Patton commanded FUSAG, the invasion threat was credible. Patton's assignment to FUSAG resulted from his spectacular self-destruction the previous year. During the Sicily campaign, Patton slapped 2 soldiers hospitalized for combat fatigue. The incidents became public scandals. Eisenhower relieved Patton of combat command. But Patton's disgrace created the perfect deception opportunity. He retained his rank and reputation while being publicly punished. Commanding FUSAG during the build-up gave him employment while keeping him from the actual invasion planning. After D-Day, he would receive Third Army Command and join the real fight in France. But for 6 crucial months, Patton played his greatest role, commander of an army that existed only on paper and in German intelligence assessments. The physical deception elements had evolved considerably since early war deceptions in North Africa. British forces had deployed dummy tanks, aircraft, and equipment to deceive Axis reconnaissance. Those techniques transferred to Britain for Fortitude. Inflatable Sherman tanks populated fields in southeastern England. From the air, they appeared identical to genuine armor. On the ground, they were rubber and canvas, light enough that wind occasionally flipped them over. Wooden landing craft, nicknamed Big Bobs, appeared in Thames estuary ports. Constructed from timber and canvas, they simulated the massive invasion fleet. Naval personnel maintained them, occasionally moving them to create the appearance of preparations. Plywood aircraft sat on makeshift airfields. Temporary buildings suggested military installations. Even sewage treatment facilities appeared, because armies produce waste. But here's the crucial reality. By spring 1944, German reconnaissance flights over Britain had essentially ceased. The Luftwaffe couldn't maintain air superiority. British fighters controlled the skies. German spy planes rarely penetrated British air defences. So who saw the dummy tanks and fake landing craft? Mostly British farmers and the occasional bull that gored an inflatable Sherman. The physical deception's primary value wasn't visual confirmation. It was providing plausible details for double agents to report. Garbo's fictional network could describe seeing tank concentrations in Kent. They could report airfields under construction. They could document landing craft arriving in southeastern ports. The physical evidence existed in case Germans somehow verified the reports. But the real deception occurred through radio and double agents. Hundreds of radio operators transmitted fake traffic, simulating FUSAG communications. Some operated from tunnels beneath Dover Castle, the same tunnels that had coordinated the Dunkirk evacuation. They sent encrypted messages about weather conditions, equipment transfers, troop movements, supply requisitions. They created the electromagnetic signature of a million-man army preparing for invasion. German signals intelligence intercepted these transmissions. They couldn't decrypt all content. British cipher security was good, but they could analyze traffic patterns. Volume, frequency, origination points, destination points, all suggested massive military operations in southeastern England. Double agents provided the narrative framework. Garbo reported his agents observing units moving into Kent and Sussex. Other turned agents corroborated these sightings from different perspectives. The intelligence appeared to come from multiple independent sources, making it more credible. One agent, code-named Tate, a German named Wolf Schmidt, who turned double agent in 1940, operated from a cover story that he worked on a farm. His reports had limitations because farmers don't have military access, but he could report troops passing through areas near his farm. His intelligence appeared more credible because it acknowledged his limitations. Another agent, Treasure, Natalie Sergeyev, a French woman of Russian origin, nearly destroyed Fortitude in December 1943. Her dog Babs was subject to British quarantine rules and remained in Gibraltar. Sergeyev went on strike, refusing to transmit false intelligence about troop build-ups. When news arrived that Babs had died, Sergeyev became convinced British intelligence murdered her dog. She threatened to reveal the entire deception. MI5 managed to contain the crisis, but it revealed how personal grievances could compromise strategic operations. Eddie Chapman, Agent Zigzag, was a professional criminal and safecracker who became a double agent with remarkable success. His criminal background made him naturally deceptive. Germans trusted him because he seemed motivated by money rather than ideology. Chapman fed them false information about bombing damage and military preparations, while maintaining credibility through occasional accurate reports about non-sensitive matters. But Garbo remained the star. By June 1944, his fictional network had become German intelligence's primary source on British military preparations. The Abwehr funded this network with the equivalent of $1 million over the war's course. They considered Garbo, codename Arabelle in German files, irreplaceable. The deception had to continue after D-Day. This was critical. If Germans realized they'd been deceived immediately after Normandy landings, they would rush reserves to the beachhead. Fortitude South had to convince them that Normandy was a feint, that the real invasion, Patton's FUSAG, would strike Pas-de-Calais within days. June 6, 1944. 02:30 hours. Garbo's radio operator began transmitting an urgent message to Madrid. The invasion was happening. Landing craft approaching Normandy coast. Airborne drops underway. The message was accurate, detailed, and completely genuine. It was also sent at 3 a.m. when German radio operators were asleep. They didn't receive it until morning, after the landings had already begun. This was intentional brilliance. Garbo could later claim he'd tried to warn them. The failure to receive his warning wasn't his fault. It was their operational incompetence. His credibility remained intact, while Germans felt guilty about missing crucial intelligence from their best agent. June 9, 1944, 3 days after D-Day, German military command faced a critical decision. Normandy invasion had established beachheads. Should they rush reserves from Pas-de-Calais and other sectors to Normandy, or maintain positions elsewhere awaiting additional Allied assaults? At that exact moment, Garbeau sent his most important message, a detailed intelligence report, unusually long, marked urgent. His network reported that most Fusag formations remained in southeastern England. They had not participated in the Normandy operation. Therefore, Normandy was a diversionary attack designed to draw German reserves away from Pas-de-Calais. The main invasion, the real threat, would strike Calais within days with overwhelming force under Patton's command. The message was a masterwork of deception. It acknowledged the Normandy landings while reframing them as secondary. It provided evidence from multiple sub-agents observing Fusag still in position. It created urgency. The real attack was imminent. It aligned with Hitler's existing belief that Pas-de-Calais was the logical target. German high command believed it completely. Ultra-intercepts decoded German communications from Bletchley Park, provided proof. German military intelligence distributed Garbeau's report to senior commanders. Hitler's headquarters incorporated it into strategic assessments. Germany's 15th Army, positioned around Pas-de-Calais with more than 1 million men and 58 divisions worth of combat power, remained in position for 7 weeks, 7 weeks while Allied forces in Normandy struggled to expand their beachhead. 7 weeks while American, British and Canadian troops fought to break out from coastal positions. 7 weeks when German reserves might have overwhelmed the invasion and driven Allies back into the sea. Bodyguard's planners had hoped for 2 weeks. They got 7. The 15th Army didn't significantly reinforce Normandy until late July. By then, Allied forces had established unassailable positions. The breakout was underway. The battle for France had been won. July 29, 1944. German intelligence sent Garbeau notification. The Führer himself had awarded him the Iron Cross for extraordinary service to Germany. Garbeau's response, crafted by Harris, "I am unworthy of such an honor." The irony must have been delicious. Hitler personally awarded Germany's highest military decoration to a double agent who had just helped ensure Germany's defeat. But the deception didn't end there. Fortitude South evolved into new phases, maintaining the Pas-de-Calais threat, even after Normandy's success, became undeniable. The fiction shifted. Eisenhower had decided to reinforce the struggling Normandy operation by pulling some units from Fusag. A second American Army group, SUSAG, would form to maintain pressure on Pas-de-Calais. The deception continued into September 1944. By then, Allied forces had liberated Paris. They were driving toward Germany's border. The fiction no longer mattered strategically, but for 5 months, Bodyguard and Fortitude had shaped German military decisions at the highest levels. The operation's success resulted from multiple factors working simultaneously. First, the double-cross system's complete control of German intelligence sources in Britain. Without this foundation, deception would have been impossible. German agents providing genuine intelligence would have contradicted the deception and exposed it. Second, ultra-intelligence from Bletchley Park. Breaking Enigma allowed Allied commanders to read German reactions to their deceptions in near real time. They could adjust the deception when Germans showed skepticism. They could reinforce elements that Germans found most believable. It was like playing poker while seeing the opponent's cards. Third, understanding German psychology and expectations. The deception didn't contradict German assumptions. It confirmed them. Hitler believed Pas-de-Calais was the logical target. Bodyguard gave him evidence supporting his belief. Confirmation bias did the rest. Fourth, patience in building credibility over years. Garbo and other double agents spent years establishing their reliability before D-Day. They provided genuine intelligence mixed with falsehoods. They acknowledged limitations in their access. They behaved like real spies, occasionally going silent during dangerous periods, requesting more money, complaining about difficulties. Fifth, comprehensive coordination across multiple deception methods. Physical props supported radio deception, supported double agent reports, supported diplomatic pressure, supported public information. Every element reinforced every other element. Sixth, continuation of deception after its reveal. The boldness of maintaining that Normandy was a feint, even after landings succeeded, demonstrated sophisticated understanding of organizational inertia. German intelligence had invested heavily in their assessment. Admitting catastrophic failure meant career destruction in Hitler's regime. Better to believe the lie a little longer. The human cost of failure would have been catastrophic. If Germans had discovered the deception before D-Day, they would have concentrated forces at Normandy. The invasion might have failed, hundreds of thousands more casualties, years more war. Potentially different war outcome. The strategic impact extended beyond D-Day. Bodyguard included subsidiary operations across Europe. Fortitude North created a fictional British Fourth Army in Scotland threatening Norway. Hitler kept 13 divisions in Norway, 250,000 troops who could have fought in France. Political deceptions suggested Allied diplomatic initiatives with neutral Sweden, Turkey and Spain, implying invasions from multiple directions. The Mediterranean theatre had its own deception operations. Operation Vendetta suggested invasions of southern France. The British even deployed an actor who resembled General Montgomery to tour North Africa and Spain, dropping hints about southern invasion plans. The accumulated effect: German forces spread across thousands of kilometers of coastline, unable to concentrate at the actual invasion point. Post-war analysis concluded that Bodyguard was the most successful strategic deception in military history. It achieved all primary objectives. It exceeded planners' expectations in duration of effect. It probably shortened the war by months, if not longer. But the individuals who executed it rarely received recognition during their lifetimes. The entire operation remained classified until the 1970s. Juan Pujol Garcia received the Iron Cross from Germany and the Member of the Order of the British Empire from Britain, the only person to receive decorations from both sides. But after the war, MI5 helped him fake his death and disappear to Venezuela. He lived in Caracas running a bookstore, gift shop and language school. His family believed he died in Angola in 1949. In 1984, writer Nigel West tracked Pujol down. Pujol finally revealed his survival. He returned to Europe, met his ex-wife who'd suspected he was alive, and reunited with his children who were furious at his deception. He died in 1988, having published his autobiography and received proper recognition. John Cecil Masterman published The Double Cross System in 1972 against official objections. The book revealed how Britain had controlled every German agent throughout the war. It became the definitive account of the operation's methods and successes. Thomas "Tar" Robertson received recognition late in life for his role developing the double-cross system. He'd spent decades unable to discuss his wartime work with anyone outside intelligence circles. The technical experts who built inflatable tanks and wooden aircraft remained anonymous. The radio operators who transmitted thousands of fake messages never received public acknowledgement. The 20 committee members who coordinated daily deception efforts faded into history. But their collective achievement changed warfare. Modern military deception doctrine studies Bodyguard as the exemplar. Intelligence services worldwide study the double-cross system as the gold standard for counterintelligence operations. The operation proved several enduring principles. First, human intelligence through controlled agents remains extraordinarily powerful even in the technological age. Garbo's reports influenced German strategy more than any reconnaissance photograph or intercepted communication. Second, deception works best when it reinforces existing enemy beliefs rather than contradicting them. Don't make the enemy believe something new. Make them believe more strongly what they already suspect. Third, patience in establishing credibility pays strategic dividends. Years of careful cultivation allowed weeks of decisive deception. Fourth, organizational culture affects strategic analysis. German intelligence failed partly because Nazi culture punished bearers of bad news. Intelligence officers who doubted Garbo's reports risked their careers. Easier to believe the comforting lie than voice dangerous truth. Fifth, integration across all deception methods creates synergistic effects greater than any single approach. Physical, electronic, human, diplomatic, all working together. Sixth, the boldest deceptions often succeed best. Maintaining that Normandy was a feint even after landings succeeded required audacity bordering on absurdity. It worked because German command structure desperately wanted it to be true. The ultimate irony, Bodyguard succeeded so completely that its success became its own deception. For decades after the war, military historians debated whether the dummy tanks and fake radio traffic actually contributed to victory. Some argued German intelligence was simply incompetent. Others claimed the physical deceptions were unnecessary because Germans couldn't conduct reconnaissance flights anyway. Both critiques missed the point. The deception worked precisely because it was comprehensive. German intelligence assessed Allied intentions from every available source. Every source, human, signals, visual, diplomatic, confirmed the same story. The redundancy created certainty, and that certainty kept German reserves away from Normandy for 7 weeks. Those 7 weeks secured Allied victory in Western Europe. That victory helped end history's deadliest war. The bodyguard of lies protected the truth just as Churchill promised. The deception was so perfect that even decades later, some refused to believe how perfectly it worked. But the casualties tell the story. Allied casualties on D-Day, approximately 10,000, including 4,414 confirmed dead. Tragic losses, but far fewer than predicted. Military planners had expected 50 to 75% casualties in the first wave. Why did casualties run lower? Because German reserves didn't arrive quickly enough to throw invading forces back into the sea. Because the 15th Army stayed in Pas-de-Calais waiting for Fusag. Because Hitler believed the lie. Every Allied soldier who survived D-Day and lived to liberate Europe owed part of their survival to a Spanish chicken farmer who never fired a shot in combat. To a committee of Oxford dons and intelligence officers who coordinated daily deceptions from behind desks. To radio operators sending fake traffic from tunnels beneath Dover Castle. To the creators of inflatable tanks and wooden aircraft that German reconnaissance never actually saw. The greatest deception of World War II wasn't about clever tactics or impressive technology. It was about understanding human psychology, exploiting organizational weaknesses, building trust over years, and having the audacity to maintain a lie even when truth became obvious. Churchill's bodyguard of lies became 27 fictional agents, 1 phantom army, thousands of fake radio transmissions, and 7 weeks of strategic confusion at the moment Germany most needed clarity. Bodyguard proved that sometimes the greatest weapon isn't the one that destroys the enemy. It's the one that makes the enemy destroy themselves through their own decisions based on information they trusted absolutely. German intelligence believed every word Garbo told them. They were so certain of his reliability that they awarded him the Iron Cross. They were so convinced of Fusag's threat that they kept their best reserves waiting for an invasion that existed only in their minds. And by the time they realized the truth, it was too late. The Allies had secured their beachhead. The liberation of Europe had begun. The war was entering its final year. Operation Bodyguard didn't win World War II alone, but it created the conditions that made victory possible. It shortened the war. It saved lives. It demonstrated that strategic deception, properly executed, can achieve what conventional military force cannot. The operation's legacy endures in every military deception plan studied at staff colleges, in every intelligence operation that turns enemy agents, in every strategic plan that shapes enemy perceptions. Because Churchill was right. In wartime, truth is so precious that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies. And sometimes those lies save the world. They save the world. They save the world. They save the world. They save the world.